Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here on Reboot, Reflect, Revive platform where I share thought-provoking interviews with inspiring individuals who are change makers and experts in their field. They share fresh perspectives to bring our lives to a new level of understanding. Today, I'm very excited to invite a special friend, Cecilia Lui, all the way from Canada. She's a consultant, coach, trainer, and educator, also the founder and director of ILIAConnect, a boutique consulting firm. She's an award-winning mentoring program founder, a global ambassador for UN Sustainable Development Goals, raising a voice for the unheard, excluded, and those that may feel less empowered. Cecilia is a native from Hong Kong with a Canadian upbringing, and she returned to her birthplace in 2001 to reconnect with her roots and pursue a second career in communications. Her cross-cultural background enables her to deal with complex and diverse corporate environments and challenges faced by many professionals from all ages, ranks, and cultures. She believes our upbringing can impact the way we lead, manage, parent, communicate, and that our best decisions arrive when we have inner calm, strength, and clarity. I am so happy to have Cecilia here today. So welcome all the way from Canada. So happy to see you, Cecilia.
Hi, Shobha. It's been a long time. We go way, way back.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that kind introduction. You did your homework. So I'm happy to be here to, have a chat on, the topic of choice.
Yes.
So I'll give you the floor.
Yes, but first, Cecilia, we are in uncertain times. We are facing a pandemic. My first question to you is, we have seen a difficult year, ups and downs. What do you do? What keeps you going?
What keeps me going? Well, it's been a quick 2 years and more. Initially we thought it was just going to be a very short period of uncertainty, but then, we're into the third year. Yes. My goodness, but time flies. What keeps me going is the work I do. I came back to Canada summer of 2020. My daughter got married, and I'm also, full-time caregiver for my mom. So every day it's a juggling act. What keeps me going is hanging on to the belief that my work can make an impact. Mm-hmm. So I, continue to mentor. I continue to, I think the pandemic has opened many virtual doors of opportunities. Mm-hmm. If you so wish, and if, I am able to identify and connect with people, mm-hmm. The power of Zoom allows us to reach far. I'm talking to you and we're thousands of miles away. Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy, and I think pivoting, everybody has had to pivot their work. So thinking up of new ways to do the same work that we do, but in a different way. And I think, I'm very grateful for the exposure now my work has, mm-hmm. thanks to, the virtual environment that we're in now.
So there's a lot happening online, and you connect with a lot of people worldwide, I'm guessing, as well. Yeah. So I would like to dig a little deeper into a topic that's quite personal and quite connected to what I'm very keen to talk about, which is related to self-esteem. And that aspect is imposter syndrome. Now, if we dig a little bit deeper into imposter syndrome, it is described that a person feels like a fraud, feels like a fake. And even though a person is highly accomplished, successful, and but he or she constantly feels that they don't match up to the praise they receive. Research shows that almost 70% of people have experienced this syndrome at some point in their lives. And as well as I too have harbored these feelings of self-doubt, I sense it as self-doubt, especially when I was writing my book and I was talking to myself, how can you, Shobha Halani, write this book on self-help when you're not a psychologist? But when I, talked myself out of that imposter syndrome stage, I felt that the doubt tends to linger at times. Even though we are aware of it, it exists, but we learn to manage it. So, Cecilia, you have experienced imposter syndrome?
I think we all have, but it's just, labeled something different, labeled differently. Before I continue, congrats on your book. Okay. I totally forgot, that's why we're here. And so congratulations on that. And, I've always known you, as as a fiction writer. Yeah. So it kind of, it's very refreshing that you moved away from that space and you found your, sweet spot. And that I am sure along the way you will, your self-doubt would say, well, who am I to write this? Who am I? We've all gone through that, right?
Yes.
And a lot of times, I feel like, hey, I want to do a LinkedIn post on this, but then your self-doubt taps in and say, well, who am I to write on this topic? Like, it's that inner voice. So definitely I have experienced that, every day, and depends on what goes on. And in the era of social media,
yeah,
we do get that, our kids get it, it doesn't matter. So I think managing, as you said, managing how much of that external voice and influence that you tap into, because I think we're living in a very dangerous era right now, comparing ourselves. I think the result is, reading about other people, how good they are, and that's not the reality. So we have to, I think, coming back to your question, have I experienced it? I think, faking, the saying, faking till you make it, it's kind of outdated, but I remember when I relocated to Hong Kong from Canada, a little bit more than 20 years ago, yeah, networking is a fabric of the Hong Kong culture. Correct. So I remember I had to, for the things that I wanted to do, I have to put myself out there. That was a decision that came very early on in life, that, my introverted personality wasn't going to get me very far, nor would it get me where I wanted to go. So I made a very conscious decision that I have to push myself out of my discomfort, build and develop the social skills I need, my communication, my ability to express myself, talk about my work, and also putting myself out there, whether it's in a physical sense, within a networking environment, or in the environment that we're in, the world of social media. So it's not something that we become proficient at by attending a webinar or reading a book. It's every day. Every minute of the day, you continue to put yourself out there. I remember networking is something that I have had to learn how to do, apply, tweak, go back, and it's just a cycle. So as long as you're willing, you can get there. And I've worked with clients who, I think intrinsically, we all want to feel like we belong, yeah, and valued and recognized. So, why do we, why do some introverts feel like that they are faking themselves? I think that would be deep down, a few reasons.
Agreed. Because if you consider an introvert the tendencies or the traits of an introvert is really to step away from a crowd, to not want to be in a social setting, to want to actually be in a safe zone or in their own comfort, um, amongst people they are familiar with. And to step out of that is actually takes a lot of courage, if you think about it. Um, in that context, why do introverts often make, I mean, they want to behave like extroverts? You think extroverts have an advantage in career, or in marketing themselves, or in generating a sort of a situation where they can create an impact? What do you think about in that context, imposter syndrome in that context of introversion and extroversion?
So, I've had clients who want to seek out support on how to be more visible.
Mhm.
And in the corporate space, the traditional mindset is that, especially within, my Chinese culture, is that keep your heads down, work hard, and you'll be noticed. But that saying doesn't work anymore, because, it's very, um, it's proven it's not working. From our education system to our workplace, it kind of backfires, because the person who is willing to express themselves, to share an idea, to voice a viewpoint at the meeting table gets hurt. And if you don't say anything, you're brought on inside your head. So I think we need to learn how to express ourselves, how to communicate, and how to put our ideas across. I remember as an introvert, we're always, whether it's, in the virtual environment or in the classroom, many times I have an idea, I have a viewpoint, I didn't want to put myself out there, and then 2 seconds later somebody had that same idea, right? And, say it, just say it. I mean, I think the virtual space that we've been in for the last couple of years, it's an advantage to many introverts, because we don't have to be in public. We're in the comfort of our own home. But then again, the danger is people may get too comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be interesting to see how we bring what we learn throughout the pandemic back into the real world.
That's true. Actually, Cecilia, what you share about this feeling of, as an introvert, it's very hard to express oneself. One tends to self-reflect, one tends to think twice, thrice before sharing an idea or a thought process. And as an author, actually, I've struggled with that situation where a lot of the times I'm very happy just writing my book or sitting in front of the computer. But then later on, as the years passed, then my publisher began to share that you have to be out there. As authors, we have to market ourselves. We have to share who we are as individuals, and, talk about ourselves. And I was like, but I'm a writer. I don't need to talk about myself. My books are doing the talking. So I understand where you come from related to that. I did also do my best to come out of my shell and share my work and speak to a lot more people. So you think that's it's easy to change a personality type in that sense?
Many people think that personality is something that we've been dealt with at birth and we can't change it.
Mm-hmm.
It depends. Our core, we can't change. If you attempt to change it, you feel imbalanced. Within the context of introverts and extroverts, like if you think about, okay, an introvert, if they build on their social skills, public speaking, communication skills, then they're okay. And I think many introverts, their wishes is, I wish I can be right? And you fill in the blank, right? I wish I'm more sociable. I wish I am more articulate in my communication. I wish I can stand on the stage, whatever, right? Um, I think for extroverts, and I think like as introverts, we're more thoughtful, deliberate, and measured in the way that we express ourselves. We think before we speak. And sometimes I think, if extroverts can develop ability to refer introspect points would come out be with more credibility, because I often find that they speak their mind and then they realize they shouldn't have. I mean, I have both personality types within my families, and that's these are just skills, and we can develop them, right? The ability to self-reflect, be more aware, these are all skills that we can all develop. So it's not part of the core of who we are. So definitely you can change it, tweak it any way you like.
That's so true, actually. As we evolve or change or transform, and experiences in life kind of give us a taster of who we are and what we are, our capacity or our potential. It also helps us retrain our self to adjust, I guess, in a way to adapt to a new environment, to be able to grow as well, to step out of our comfort zone. So all of that is tests our ability to whether we can live up to our own expectations. Because a lot of the times the imposter syndrome leads into having very high expectations of ourselves. And then when we don't achieve those expectations, we tend to feel again that we are not good enough, or we struggle with our own understanding of self, that we are a fake, or we don't take ownership, right? We don't take ownership of our own talents and skills, even though we may have accomplished a lot. So if you were to suggest, as in, you've helped many clients, you've mentored many people, diverse backgrounds, even in Asia and Western kind of personality types. How would you say that you could offer any tips for people to face or acknowledge that they have imposter syndrome, and then how to deal with it in a work environment or a relationship, or any suggestion you could give in that area?
I think the first place, if one is willing to invest in the time, is to get to know yourself, because everything starts with the self, right? And it's easier if you're willing to do the hard work, getting to know yourself, honoring who you are, and that's an important part. And then once you've done that hard work, the rest would be a lot easier, because it's all about being authentic and honoring who you are, like being able to speak the truthful version of your thoughts, rather than what someone wants to hear, or what you're in many cultures, not just the Asian cultures, there are people pleasers.
Yeah.
And when you try to please everyone except for yourself, then you have no idea where you need to stand.
Yeah.
So I would say the first thing to do is get to know yourself. And I didn't, at one point when I was younger, I thought it was weird. I was, why am I this way or that way? Until I realized introversion and extroversion has been so researched and studied. And from that point onward, I looked into it. And there's actually research on me as an introvert. So I went in, and that also formed a part of self-understanding. right? Understanding how you're wired. Why are you that way? Oh, it's not just me. It's actually a big population out there that's like that. And then learn to navigate, don't, I think the downside is we try to be everything to every sphere. High achievers, and there's a lot of pressure in society to aim high, but you have to come back to yourself. What are you most comfortable? And I'm not saying, lazy type of comfort. You need to ask yourself, and it comes back to the personality point, what can be changed, what can't be changed. And whether you're an employee or a self-employed, what do you need to work on in order to get to where you want to go? I think that would be an honest question to ask yourself. And, I know friends and I know clients, they're not willing to put themselves out there, even at the face of demotion or losing a business. They're not willing, and that's fine. I hope I answer your question.
Yeah, can we recap like in 3 points what you suggested?
Sure.
Like self-awareness and where you want to go. And what was the third one?
Well, I think understanding yourself.
Understanding self. Yeah.
Take the time to understand yourself. Self-awareness is valuable to anybody. So develop the self-awareness to observe, your behavior, your words, and how other people respond to you or relate to you. And, it's always better to critique yourself than be critiqued. So you develop, the more expansive your self-awareness is, then you're able to self-regulate and check in with yourself. How did I do today, and what can I do better tomorrow? Just that, it's a journey. I mean, getting to know yourself, it's a lifelong journey.
It is. It is.
Right. I mean, but there's a lot of value in that.
And what have you learned? If you would say you started your second career in communications, which is something I find very close to my heart, because I feel that communication is a skill, especially when we want to communicate not just with others, but with ourselves. We need to use the right words. We need to use the right actions, nonverbal communication. In this day and age, how important or relevant and valuable is communication, especially since we are talking to each other online so much and with so many different people? Can you share a little bit on that?
I had my first career in Canada after university, about 18 years. And then I didn't want to do what I wanted to do till I retired. Okay. That was the epiphany I had one day at work. And I took a year off and assessed my skills, did a lot of reflection and, trying to figure out where I want to go.
Okay.
And in the process of doing a skills inventory, I realized that I was both fascinated in communication and also have a knack for it. Like yourself, I had a very strong voice in wanting to write, and Women in Publishing was the very first association that I joined upon moving to Hong Kong. So I developed my writing. I wasn't trained as a writer, nor a trainer, nor a public speaker. So everything was self-taught. And I think I think the backstory to why communication was that my upbringing, I grew up in a family that was a little bit, kind of dysfunctional in communication. So I picked up a lot of bad habits, and I spent half a lifetime working on my own communication. I was not a very communicative or expressive person. So I strive to, and I recognize the importance of communication, and we do everything in life almost everything by some form of communication, right? Whether it's by words or by action, or even if I'm not talking to somebody, that's a form of communication, the silence treatment. So I recognize how important it is. And you mentioned, our inner dialogue, which links to self-esteem. Sometimes it's yes, the words matter, but it's the way we think, the way we see the world, we see ourselves. The way we see ourselves attribute to very much your topic on self-esteem. How do we see ourselves? That's more important than how others see us, right? I mean, it's equally important, but how we see ourselves, it's crucial. It needs to be at the top. Because if you see yourself negatively, everything you do comes out negative.
Actually, who has imposter syndrome and fails is what I've researched and discovered that they find it very difficult to move on from there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Again, it comes back to our mindset, our thoughts and our thinking. It can be worked on. And again, it comes back to the hard work. Self-forgiveness is important, right? I can't, just give a few tips and, be done with it. So every person's story is unique. And there could be a lot of history in there. There could be a lot of things that we have to work at.
True.
I myself was no exception. Being the product of the Asian Chinese culture, child of my parents were divorced a long time ago. So all that attribute to, in some way, shape who we are.
Yeah, conditioning.
Right? So
conditioning, yeah, it happens.
Exactly. Whether it's culture or family or society, that conditioning, you have to recognize how it has shaped you. And are you happy with who you are? If it's not working, I mean, there's a fine line between exceedingly, setting too much expectation on yourself to the point that you're experiencing anxiety and depression. That's a little bit, I mean, I'm talking about the day-to-day, be a bit more realistic. Like, are you realistic with your expectations? Set high bar. Like I, at some point, I was a reborn perfectionist and a reborn, a person with high expectation. So at some point you have to say, and I think, you're bringing me back to, down to memory lane. You have to ask yourself, how are the people in your life and around you that you work, how are they relating to you? And I think relationship matters.
Correct.
Like if you notice people are walking away from you, they're not talking to you, they're just repelled by you in general, then it's time to go, do a little bit of reflecting and ask yourself, there's something wrong in the picture. Like, and accountability, it's where you need to go rather than pointing fingers, because you look at the situation and you find your place in that situation. What is my role in this chaos? What is my role in this situation? And what can I do? Because I think it's also very natural to say, if they change, I will change. No, change start with yourself, right? Change start with yourself, and you can move the needle by one small, even if that change is an attitude change or the way you see the world changes, not necessarily by a physical change. That can all make a small difference.
Cecilia, you raised so many relevant points, and I would love, so just for today, I just would have one final question. What do you think would be a quick way for someone struggling with imposter syndrome what would be an easy way for them to recover or to understand or develop that self-awareness? What would be a good way for them to understand themselves?
I think I would say the first thing you need to do is be honest with yourself.
Okay.
Go stand in front of a mirror and talk to yourself. I think if you're not honest with yourself about what you need to do, nothing can change.
Okay.
That I would say that would be the first step.
Mm-hmm.
The thing to recognize is, and again, in our current atmosphere, everybody wants something quick. So if you can afford it, seek out, a professional to help you to get on the path of changes a lot quicker. I did it all by myself, and that's because I enjoyed that journey.
Oh yeah, correct.
On looking back, I would do it differently because life is short, right? You want to get the result quick, and well, anyway, I can't reverse time, but I can use that wisdom to help somebody else to get on their path a lot quicker with a lot less challenges.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Cecilia. Just one final note. Any particular quote that you follow and, that you love to, remind yourself about? Is there a quote or a affirmation or anything, something like that?
We talked a lot about self-awareness.
Yeah.
So one quote that I use often is, awareness is half the solution to your problem. Now that you have the information at your hand, what are you going to do about it?
That's
right?
profound.
Even deciding not to do something is a decision. So make a decision as to what would you do about what you know.
On that note, thank you so much, Cecilia, and we will reconnect in a week. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share on something that's so dear to my heart. And on the topic of Superwoman, I look forward to our next conversation.
Yes, excellent.
Thank you, Shobha. Bye-bye.
Bye.